Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Mood Mentor Mental Health Awareness live discussion. And this evening, I've got with me Sinjini Sengupta. I nearly got that wrong then. Sinjini Sengupta, is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Kay.
No, hi. And yes, I have this wonderful quote that I like to use, and that is mastering life is all about mastering change. And that's exactly what we've just been doing backstage, isn't it? Trying to get around some sound issues
Absolutely.
so that we could come live. So I think it's the first time we've started late, but I don't mind because I'd rather get it right. And I think that's what life is all about, and still turn up with a smile. And you are smiling, that's the good thing. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And thank you. I mean, yeah, for a moment we did think that this is going to be difficult, but then it worked.
Yeah, you sorted it. You sorted it. You switched systems. You made a change, and it all came true. That's what it's all about. So yes, brilliant. And for the sake of our viewers tonight, I'm sure we will get some at some point, but we're a little earlier tonight. And I usually do it at 7 p.m. here in our time. But it's very late where you are, isn't it?
It's, 20 minutes to midnight.
Oh, goodness, yes. So we've agreed to do this one an hour earlier, and then some people might catch it on the replay instead tonight. But it's probably a lot of people having their tea tonight this time, so or out delivering Christmas presents. We're not sure, one or the other.
Yes.
Although they shouldn't be going out in lockdown. But anyway, that's brilliant to have you on the show. And so just to briefly catch up on who you are and why you're here, I've made some notes because, wow, you're a busy lady.
Thank you.
So most important job of all that I can find on your list of things you do is being a mum.
Yes. Yes.
And
That takes as much time as you can give, I'm sure.
yeah, I think anyone who is being a mum or is a mum will fully appreciate how that is the most important job going, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. It's humbling. It puts you down on your knees many times a day.
Yeah. Oh, and I gather next thing I found on your list of roles is that you are an author.
Yes. Yes.
And I understand that some of your inspiration for your for your book and your speeches, because you're an international speaker as well. So, and I understand a lot of your inspiration comes from your daughter and asking questions and dreaming. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
bless.
quite to some extent. I think it was almost coincidental in terms of timing. How when she arrived, I was pushed into a kind of position where I stopped to smell the roses,
Oh,
and
brilliant.
that is where I think any kind of rumination starts to begin with. Otherwise, I was too busy talking to numbers and computers. And it was perhaps for the first time ever in my adult life, or even since the time I got my senses, maybe, that I
Yeah.
stopped to think what it is about. And it might be coincidental. And yes, she might have been a bit of inspiration as well. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I think kids are great for giving us a whole new outlook on life in
Oh,
so many
yes.
different ways as well. And
Yes.
yeah, I must admit, I that's the one job of all the jobs I've had over the years, I wouldn't want to change. As hard as it's been at times, and as much as you like this some days with children, I think yeah, being
Yes.
a mum's one of the best jobs in the world. So well done to you, and for taking inspiration from your children. That is so very lovely and very humbling. So your mum, an author, an international speaker, TEDx speaker, and I understand you do a lot of work for and I can't get it, something to do with the Chamber of Commerce, Women's International Chamber of Commerce, something? How do you say
Yes,
that one?
yes, yes. It's the Women Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So I'm the national president of the mentoring and soft skills sector of it.
Oh,
So
fantastic. That sounds like you have
thank you.
just this huge life filled with responsibilities and fun and excitement. And do you take time for you in there anywhere?
Oh yes, all of these are actually about me. None of these are anything that is out of my main core, which really is to find voice. I have become crazy and obsessed about the idea of an emotional voice, because that is something I clearly did not have for the longest time. My school didn't teach me to have an emotional voice. My job didn't require me to have an emotional voice. So I think once I found and realized the importance of it, I hold on to it like my life depends on it. And everything I do is actually surrounding it, be it spoken words, be it written words. So I am the founder of Lighthouse, where I teach programs in voice. So essentially written, spoken, empathy, storytelling, creative leadership. But all of my roles are about listening to your quiet voice that nobody else talks about.
Oh, bless. Oh, my word. That is what you call living life with a passion. That is phenomenal. Well done.
Oh,
Well done.
thank you.
That is
But I
inspirational
love the
itself.
work you are doing, and I have not had a very elaborate chance to go deep into it. I've only watched a few of the things you sent me, but the very word mood mentored itself is so provocative, and I really appreciate you reaching out to me. I mean, no idea who I was, and I mean how you do it, and with as much passion. I really appreciate.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, it's a passion that has been attempted to be squashed in me over time. It's quite strange actually, because I don't, obviously if you say you don't know much about my background and why I'm doing this, is my son was suicidal for 12 years, and it was through that I learnt to use the little colour emotional wheel up there. It's ended up on your side of the screen, but that little colour wheel over there is the interpretation I've come up with of the emotional cycle, and I used that to teach my son how to understand his emotions visually, because he couldn't understand it as a concept. So that's where I've come from in terms of building up this passion for emotional awareness and being able to help people to connect with the very beginning of that journey of personal development. So that's where it come from, and over time I started writing my book. And then I had to give up that and went back to work. Well, I say went back to work. Life took over for a few years. Ended up with a run of jobs, and then came back around this year to a point where I've this year lost my marriage, my home, my job, and then I had had another job where I just could not connect with it, and I just gave it all up and just took a huge leap of faith and went, no, I still need to do this book about this system that helped my son, that helped save his life. And that's why I'm here. So this is kind of where this whole mental health awareness series has come from, really. That having found myself living alone this year, and then we got put in lockdown for the virus for 28 days. But then that didn't come to an end. We're still in lockdown. And so, we got this 28-day lockdown. I thought, I can't be sitting here for 28 nights on my own, not knowing what to do. What can I do? I can talk. So that it just began like that. 2 nights notice, I began the challenge. So that's why we're here. And I put a post on the Speaker Hub. I think it was the Speaker Connect or Speak Hub, and that was where we connected, wasn't it?
Yes.
And it took off from that day. I had 3 slots left, and I put a post in that forum, and by that night I had a list of over 20 extra people wanting to join. And that's where you came in.
And that's such a story, and I mean, really virtual hugs to you, and to turn that vulnerability and being so brave and courageous about saying that, as if, without batting an eyelid. I mean, really, hats off. It's so wonderful to see that vulnerability, because I feel that we don't talk often about these brokenness and these softer, humbling moments, and it's so important to say it, because I'm sure there's so many people out there who are listening to forget about me being the guest today, but I'm sure your story alone would give hope to so many people.
Yeah, thank you. And so anyway, it sort of got to a point where with the 28-day lockdown, I sort of cracked on with writing my book as well, make the most of being alone, every writer's dream, uninterrupted. And the book will be out by Christmas, so it's all that quick.
Wow.
Yes.
That's awesome. Many congratulations.
Thank you. But you've already done your book and it's already out, and I understand you're having a lot of success with it. And I think that is brilliant. Brilliant. So
My
you do a
book
lot
had
of,
a very funny, it had its own story. So
yeah.
I wrote my book one day on my way back from work to home, deep in the night, waiting for the office cab to drop me home, following the roster. It was a 2000-word short story, which then
Okay.
was picked up to be made into a short film that got selected to be screened at the Cannes Film Festival. And
Wow.
it won a number of international awards. The short film was directed by my husband, and both of us wrote the screenplay together.
Oh,
After
wow.
we walked the red carpet at Cannes, we came back, and then the movie got an offer to be written into a book. So the movie happened first, and then the book came in a novel form. So it had its own story, and I have been really very, very lucky, as well as been. I was very surprised to have you know it was almost a miracle the way it happened and the way the book was received. And the
Oh,
first
yeah.
book is always unraveling your own emotions, and it gave me a lot of clarity and almost shifted my consciousness. Apart from everything that happened in terms of its achievements outside, I think it changed me as a person a big deal.
Oh, that's amazing. What I'm going to do is literally, as we speak, I'm going to post a link in the comments below. So if anybody wants to know about the book, the link is already
Sure,
there. I'm ahead of
sure.
time. I'm usually doing all of these afterwards. So I'm on the ball tonight.
No, let me try to find you the link to the book, though.
I've just done it. I've just put it in the chat.
Oh, have you?
I
Okay.
have. I'm
Thank you.
there. I was all
Thank you.
prepared.
Thank you.
I couldn't do it until we started the video. Oh, yeah, talking of which, it says comments. Yep, there we go. That's in the, if I now put that up there, there we go. The link is in the chat. So, yes, that's
Yes.
amazing. So, your book is entitled Elixir. And
Yes.
what I go, sorry, I'm trying to read it off here. I'll let you tell them the title, the description, sorry. So, yeah, tell us
Elixir,
about it.
the title, the byline is The Dream of a Story, the Story of a Dream.
Okay.
And the reason is that Elixir is really a story that happens within a dream.
Okay.
So, my protagonist, when she falls asleep, she wakes up in another life. And when she falls asleep, there she wakes up in this life. So, this is a subconscious interplaying, and it's a story of alternate realities where it's almost like she meets herself in her dreams.
Wow.
Which gave me a lot of scope to work with how the mind and the body works, what is dream at all about, and also if we are living in our own minds, because you know so it's actually a quite fascinating idea for me to have started to think about it, that when we fall asleep, what when we are in our dreams, what we see there, we believe it to be true, right? It is
Mm.
only when we wake up in this world we realize that, oh my god, it was just a dream, and
Yes.
we brush it aside and move on. But what if we could believe in that, and what if we could construct that? And if
Ah,
somebody is not fully happy or content in this life because of the obvious emotional void, the loss of voice, the sense of belonging or the lack of it, what if somebody can construct all of that in their dreams, in their subconscious? So I played with the idea of the mind and the body and the subconscious with it.
wow. Oh, that sounds amazing. So are you one of these people who has nice dreams?
Most of it is obviously a little constructed, but yes, I do. I am very fascinated by the mind body connect, and that is something that definitely was not taught in school. I
Mm.
encountered it in a rather catastrophic way. I fell very ill. I was burnt out. I was a step away from quadriplegia, actually, being a young mom at work and with all the pretensions and all the struggle that it takes. At office, you pretend like your job is your priority. At home, you pretend your baby is your priority, and you are essentially torn between the two roles, and with all kind of gender dynamics and politics, which is another discussion perhaps. But I was burnt out, and a number of things happened. Psychosomatic, major depressive disorder, physiological, spinal, everything together.
Yeah.
And it was only then that I realized that what was happening to my mind was showing up on my body, because the body is keeping scores as much as I was trying to kind of, shush the voice.
Yeah.
And when I realized that, I started to obsessively read a lot about psychology, spirituality, philosophy, and to really try to understand what is going on, because I never thought my mind has anything to do with the body. If something happens to the body, you pop some pills, and if something happens to the mind, you wish it away. But it doesn't work that way. And Elixir really started from that point, because I began with that question that, okay, fine, if we are really living in our mind, then where can our mind take us?
Yeah, it's
So,
an interesting concept.
yeah.
Yes, yeah. I mean, for me, my mind has always been, and I'm going to just share this with you briefly. So obviously,
Yes.
book of the day today is Elixir. But this is a book that I use a lot, or have done over the years, is about understanding dreams.
Wow.
And I love trying to interpret what I've dreamed into something that's meaningful in the day. And I used it a lot to help my children as well. I'd never let them read the book because I didn't want them to misinterpret. So they used to tell me their dreams, and it gave me an opportunity to have discussions with them. So we talked a lot about dreams growing up. Now sometimes I tell them my dreams and they interpret for me without reading the book. So yeah, we use that a lot. But for my son, he'd have really bad nightmares or dreams or thoughts, and then he'd turn that into stories. So he used to write lots of stories from his too, but we've still got to publish a lot of them. So yeah, it's amazing where it can take you. Do you find in your dreams that things that you do dream about actually come into reality afterwards?
No, not that way. I mean, not the ones that I dream in the night. Of course, daydreams are almost like you. It's almost constructed. It's something that you see and you believe you can
Okay.
get, and all of that inspirational stuff. But no, not so much with the night dreams. I think
Okay.
as much your first book is, in a way, your memoir, what I tried to explore is more of my, more of the sensitivity of the mind. What if I could play on it? I mean, of
Yeah.
course, in our regular life, we can only play on it on the leash. Like you can let the kite go, but you wouldn't let the entire thread run. But what if we were free to do more of it? What if we could really, get off the train at an unknown platform and see where it takes us? We don't do it in real, but in our books we can.
Yeah. Oh, it's an interesting concept, actually. Yeah. So just letting the imagination run free. I think we had a conversation along those lines once, and it went on for about an hour. We had a conversation about the reflection in the mirror. How do I know when I look in the mirror which one is me and which one's a reflection? It was a very in-depth conversation. It sort of ended up with no answer, but yeah.
Actually, it's quite interesting. When I was finishing up my book, I came across a poem by Edgar Allan Poe, which is titled "A Dream Within a Dream,"
Oh
and
yeah.
which says that time is like sand passing through our fingers, and all that we see or we seem is but a dream within a dream.
Mm.
And as much as I'm not a great believer, I'm quite an atheist. I'm grown up as an atheist. I think I would best describe myself as an agnostic at the best stretch of imagination. But there are philosophies, and especially in India, the Hindu philosophy, they talk a lot about rebirth and multiple lives in of the soul. And if for a moment you were to believe that, you would also think of our every night as an episode of so our death could be akin to a night of sleep. So you wake up every day to a new life. And what it essentially says is this, that, at one point, my protagonist questions that if in my dream I feel that to be real, then who am I to say that that is not real and this is real?
Yeah.
Because in that, I'm just as real as anything else. And the people there, they accept me, I accept them, and I'm happy there. So it's almost like I want my agency over my dream, and I can choose where to be more alive. So
wow.
I wanted to explore that. And while this is a format, what it really brings out is the things that we miss in our real life, which is that very concrete, steely coldness of the urban reality, where we are just rushing by the hands of the clock and we are not really doing much. And what essentially happens is that we don't have an emotional voice. And what if we could give our emotional voice to our dream?
Yes, yeah. Oh, that sounds interesting. Yeah, it does actually. Emotional voice. Emotional voice. So emotional voice is about, yes, being able to say what you truly feel and being able to actually turn that into something meaningful, or into something maybe not even meaningful, I suppose, if it's a dream. Could be just having fun, couldn't it?
I
My
think it's
daughter.
all about having the permission to fail, because in this life, particularly, and with the protagonist which I have painted, and it might be true in many other places, not just India, not just in the particular demographic, but the kind of protagonist which I have painted is very close to my own life, where there are boxes. Obviously there's a man box, there's a woman box, but at the same time there are also additional boxes, which is about, if you have been a good student, then you are supposed to make us proud, so this is what you are supposed to study and this is how you are supposed to do well. And there isn't any permission to make a fool of yourself, or to slip, or to do something crazy, or to even take a month of vacation. And at some point, I think you end up asking if you even belong to yourself, because you don't know who you belong to, and you are only what you have been allowed to be. You are not yourself, but you are a version of yourself that has been sanctified. So that space is something that I wanted to explore, where my protagonist in her dreams allows herself to just fall and get up again, than to always have to be this trite person who should look good all the time and who should have couple pictures up the social media.
Yeah. Oh wow. Because do you find in sorry, because for anybody who's coming in watching this late or missed the beginning, do you find in India that there is more expectation for women to be conformed and quiet, or is it becoming more of an open field where you can speak publicly or can speak up?
This is a very interesting question. I don't have one short answer to it. One, India is such a diverse place that uh, even my next door neighbor and the life I have and my next door neighbor has is going to be very different, coming from the family, the structure, the culture, the place that we belong to, or the parents we have had. Forget about the socio-economic, I'm talking about neighbors. So diversity is so big that it's very difficult to catch India in a homogeneous kind of a group. You can at best talk about road safety, etc., in terms of gender, but how the mental makeup goes and how the family expectation goes, it will vary widely based on where you are and who you are and what you have achieved and who your parents are, and etc. Also, the other thing is, it is surprising how similar women are, because as much as we may want to think that, so the Western world is something and the Eastern world is something, maybe in the place where I live in India, and with all the privileges I have got in India, I would perhaps identify much more with a more evolved, part of the globe than locally. But even then, there are these common things like imposter syndrome. There is this common thing about, what the media portrays as a perfect body, or what is the
Yeah.
shame around menstruation. And nobody can take that away as advanced a country is. So it's it's sad, and it's
Mm.
striking how similar we women are. I
Yeah.
I remember somebody once told me that even the Fortune 500 CEO women are suffering from self doubt. One, and I feel another problem we don't talk about is that in order to prove ourselves successful, we become masculinized because that's the model of success. So it's very
Mm.
hard for us to be feminine as much as we are women. It's a very complex question you asked.
Yeah.
Thank you for that question.
No,
But
it's okay.
yeah,
By open, if I just sit here and ask you closed questions, you'll sit there going, yes, no. We want conversation. It's good. It's brilliant. But no, I think it sounds very similar to here. I mean, we probably 20, 30 years ago were just getting to a point where people are more comfortable talking about things. But on the flip end of it, now I'm finding that our younger sort of generation who are coming into adult life are actually quite extremely open about things, to the point that they seem to have lost morals in public situations at times. And some of the things they talk about, like stuff that we grew up not even talking about with a partner in privacy, let alone in public, they can go the other end as well. And it can sometimes be very difficult finding that middle balance and keeping everybody happy. So
the
there's one thing to
pendulum
move
will
with the
have to
time.
swing back before it comes to balance, won't it?
Yeah, I'm gonna say, so there's one thing to move the times forward, but then it's another one altogether to stop them from moving forward or make it something more constructive. So yeah, I mean, there are some amazing people, and a lot of youngsters who have still got the same sort of morals and dignity. But then others, they just come out and say anything at anybody at any time, and it's like, oh, I really wish I hadn't heard that. And I don't think it's just me being old either. I won't even repeat any of the things I've heard over the last few years. But yeah, it can go from one extreme to the other. So still some amazing kids out there. At the end of the day, they've all got a life ahead of them. They've got to teach the next generation, and so much to learn. But like you say, being able to have that voice is really important, because when they've come out of sort of childhood stage, we say they're free to have any voice they want as a child. That's pretend, it's play. And then you go into this adult world, and that bit in the middle is such a squeeze, isn't it? Trying to go through changing from child to teenager, changing education to college to jobs. Your relationships change around your parents, around your friends. You've got to learn to change your financial outlook. It's no longer birthday monies and gifts and pocket money. You've got to start earning. And it's like that whole, it's like squeezing a cork through a bottleneck, and they go pop, don't they?
Oh, it's difficult to be human, I guess.
Yes, especially in that squeeze of a teenage. And they're only a teenager for 6 years, and so much happens in that time. But yeah, so to have the awareness that you still need to dream. And my daughter was fascinated by the film Peter Pan, and she said when she watched that, I'm never going to grow up. And she hasn't. Although
May she not.
she's had to in some ways, but in other ways she's always maintained that inner child, and has lots of fun with her children now. So yeah, lovely. So you've done the book. You've done, are you going to write any more books?
Yes, I have been writing and shelving books, to be very honest with you. I have written I have contributed to a number of anthologies since then. So I have written in the genre of historic fiction and fantasy and romance, another on history. So I have done all of that. Poems, of course, poems remain my favorite. In fact, Elixir is also very, I have been told that it's a poem in disguise. So it is not a novel, it's a poem in disguise, because I kind of blurred the line between poem and prose. Having said that, I started working on my next novel, which is when I got very strongly pulled towards other things which were non-fiction, because
Okay.
I am very active in the space of talking about emotional wellness and gender sensitivity, gender intelligence, rather, I would say, femininity, masculinity, and accepting the gender the way it is, rather than like not so much of activism, but more of sensitivity and intelligence.
Yeah.
So I get invited to talk about gender sensitivity and gender intelligence and emotional intelligence a lot. And what I realize is that, I'm almost stealing time from each other. So at times I'm doing this non-fiction talking, and at times I'm doing the fiction writing. And I write columns which are also on in non-fiction and on gender topics and on voice and storytelling, creativity. So then I shelved my fiction work to start my work on a book on women and workplaces, because that was my second TEDx, and I was researching for about 2 years on women and workplaces and conscious workplaces and what they need to do to be gender intelligent. And I was consulting and talking to a number of leaders, etc. So I started a book on that, and then Lighthouse happened. So I am kind of sitting on 3 manuscripts at the moment, but it would take bit of a horse's blind to be able to finish either one of them. I'll see which one comes first, but in all probability, I'll work on the one on storytelling, because I believe that people need to be heard more than be told what to do. So my other 2 books are kind of trying to tell them what to do, and my storytelling book would hopefully make them feel heard, which is something that is more urgent from their point of view.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. And it is great to be able to pass that skill on. That's one of my quotes. Actually, our quote of the day, I was going to look for one on dreams, but that's actually brings up 3 words for me that have been a huge part of the book I'm writing, and that's pay it forward. You sound like a very huge supporter of paying it forward.
We are sitting on a loan, aren't we? We are, I feel that, and especially as you just asked me the previous question about being a woman in India, I do feel that we start off on a huge loan where our journeys have been paid forward, and we are only eating out of somebody else's earnings in terms of the mothers and the sisters who came before us, and everything that has happened to us in terms of privilege. And yeah, I mean, I feel I am very, very emotional about women. I don't call it women empowerment at all, because I feel that women are not broken. They don't need to be fixed. It's the system. But there's so much work to do that I cannot stop thinking about it, frankly. And if I can pay it forward, even, half of what I have lived on from other people's earlier
if we could open your head up, it would just glow.
Yeah.
I think if we could just open the top of your head there, it would just literally shine light and glow and sparkle. You have so much going on in there. I thought I was bad enough. I was bad enough. I'm sitting here with about 3, 4, 5 different books in my head, but at least I'm doing one. I haven't started the others yet. But no,
writing a book is a very lonely activity. I feel, the reason why it's not easy to finish the book is also the fact that when I write it in form of a column, or when I speak about it in form of an interview or a YouTube video, there's so much of instant response that comes through. It helps. Whereas to research and write one book and to do justice to it, and I'm very old school, so traditional publishing is what I go with, because I feel that filtering is very important, and that editorial process is very important, and it puts a stamp on your book that it has been sanctified. So with that process in place, the entire thing, by the time it matures and goes out, and you can never match the best, like there will be always some book that you would feel that it's already there. What am I writing for? Because it has been written. From that point of view, I feel that when I write a column and I get instant response, it's so much gratifying. And I feel that people are also benefiting so much more from it because they can instantly read it and instantly say that my life has been touched by it. That it's easy to kind of, fall out of the process of a 2-year book. But yes, at the same time, it has great library value, and you would want to look back at them with pride.
Yes. Oh, that is lovely. It's like a little legacy to leave behind, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And, yeah. Oh, that is brilliant. So I'm so glad it's helping people. Certainly, you're just lighting up with it all. It's lovely. So you say you've taken more of an interest in sort of the mental health side, or how the mind works. Where do you see that taking you in that specific channel? What's your vision there?
Again, interesting question. I am very excited about the overlap between SDG 3, 4, and 5, which is to say continuous education or adult education, gender empowerment or gender sensitivity, and mental health. Because mental health definitely is a huge problem, but this is a very complex problem, and it's like a lattice, right? It's while individually a person, when they are very unwell, they can go to take personal help, and they would be kind of taken out of it with the help of drugs or therapy. But you have to admit that our entire social structure does not quite help it, because the way we are functioning, the entire concept of competition, or cutthroat competition, or thinking that it's a zero sum game, the lack of goodwill, the lack of being collaborative or being empathetic, so that is missing. And every time one person falls very unwell, they go to a doctor and the doctor fixes that person. But we don't talk about the root cause, which is making everybody unwell in a way. The only difference is who can cope better than another. And a large part of it is also about gender dynamics, because the misogyny or the patriarchy doesn't only harm the girls, it also harms the boys as much. And of course, the nature of that harm is very different, but there is no space to talk about natural curiosity or natural urges, or there is a lot of pretense or a hypocrisy around body, or so again, this is one place where perhaps India and the Western world are different. But in India, I feel that the pretense around sex, sexuality, body, knowing your own body, admitting or accepting your feelings. So I understand criminal traits. But when everybody or a majority of everybody is doing something, we cannot blame it entirely on them. The system is also wrong in many ways. A lot of stereotypes. So where I see my quest or interest or curiosity about mental health going is to find that sweet spot where I could work with mindsets. Because a number of people are doing great work in terms of activism, in terms of awareness, in terms of the top of that, tip of the iceberg, where sexual hate crimes are happening and they are resolving it, or they are going out on the street and doing actual real work at the ground. My interest lies in the space where father or a mother says pink for the girl and blue for the boy, or a fast car for the boy and a Barbie doll for a girl. So my interest, or my, as they say, you need to find your favorite problem. My favorite problem is really that we need to talk about gender and mind and education in the same sentence.
Yeah, that's very well said, actually. Yeah, because I think when you don't catch that right, and then you were saying about, obviously all children get to a point in their sort of teens, 20s, they start sometimes a bit too early, but start getting into a sexual activity. And when they haven't got the mindset right, that's when you lead to women having much bigger emotional problems afterwards, isn't it? Bigger mental health problems on the back of sexual trauma and things, or even physical trauma, you know, when people being bullied, or you get people who lead off into fraud or crime, that then creates victims. So yeah, that mindset as a child and getting that right is absolutely crucial to preventing a lot of further mental health down the line.
Yes.
Yes, huge challenge, and I've always been an advocate of prevention is better than cure, and it's very difficult when you're not addressing their mindset in the beginning, or not help. I don't say addressing it, but not helping them address their own mindset. And the one that frustrates me is seeing teenagers who are then going through that difficult mindset and they're straying down the wrong path, and parents going, oh, I give up, I don't know what to do with them. No, that is not the time to give up. That's the time you need to invest more effort, more love. You need to hug them even if they want to hate you right now. It's not the time to give up. Please don't. So that's where my book is aimed at, is that bit. But yeah.
Yeah,
So if you do your
teenagers and
job right, you will
adolescence
read
is a
my book.
huge space. And I'm so glad you are talking about it, and your book will definitely make a difference.
Thank you. But no, I mean, say if you're working with younger children as well, it's just important all the way down the line, all the way, you know, where they are little children, growing up children,
I'm actually
teenagers.
working with adults because I feel that younger children, again, the work to do with younger children, I don't have the uh, skills for it, because child psychology is different from adult psychology. Child psychology, I mean, we adults, we don't even realize that child psychology is a different discipline. We oftentimes tell ourselves the story that, you know, children think less and eventually merge with the level of adult thinking. We don't realize that they're different things, they're apples and oranges. So child psychology is different, and we need to study child psychology to be able to work with younger children. My work is with adults because I feel that at times, even with very progressive schools who are very sensitive and who are very inclusive and nurturing the emotional intelligence part of, you know, holistic growth, but when the children come back to their parents, the typical family setup and the stereotypes, and every time we open our mouth, we are very stereotyped in our heads. So my work is really with the adults, because as adults we are very unhappy, and forget about being specific about pink, blue cars or dolls. Just the fact of being joyful or being abundant, or not teaching your child to have to fight for your share of pie and to just be joyous. You know, my work at Lighthouse is really about adults, because I feel that I need to tell adults that they have the permission. Once they know they have the permission, everything falls in place. We as adults, we oftentimes don't give us the permission to have joy.
I'm just thinking, actually, something that might make you feel very proud. I have two little grandchildren. They're 3 years old. I've got three grandchildren, but two little granddaughters that are 3 years old. One of them was 3 yesterday. But that one, she is not your stereotype. Well, she is your stereotypical little girl who loves little clothes with bunny ears and pink and all the pretty shoes. But you're out in the street with her. You know, when children are out in the street and they have, from young, they have a mindset of like, I like something, like, oh, there's a dog, or there's a cat, or there's a horse, and they all have their favorite, don't they? Or some might go, oh, flowers, or there's, you know, and if it's boys, it's always a car or a train. No, my granddaughter is none of those, right? My granddaughter can be out in her own little world looking around, and then all of a sudden she goes, my bike. She's mad on motorbikes.
Lovely.
Because her brother is a little bit older, he is mad on motorbikes, and she's just followed suit. And she gets so excited out in the street when she sees a motorbike. My bike.
So sweet.
And they've just let her run with it. They've let her run with it. She's going to be very popular with all the kids, because she likes the girly clothes and she likes to talk about motorbikes. So she could be in trouble when she's a teenager.
Not at all. The world will move with her.
But yeah, she's absolutely brilliant. But at the same time, they let their little boy, they let him, you know, if he wants to play with something, he loves cooking. Right from about 9, 10 months old, if he could get hold of toys and put one thing in another and stir it and mix it and taste it, he was doing it. So very kitchen based. My grandson, when my granddaughter's like, oh, no thanks.
Aren't the kids the wisest? I mean, we just contaminate them the moment they come here. I mean,
Yeah.
they left to their own devices, they're the wisest, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I find it
Absolutely.
rather presumptuous to think that we adults, we say that we work with young children and we teach them something. We might as well just, sit on our knees and learn from them.
Yeah. But no, it is brilliant. It's lovely to see them being themselves when they're that age,
Yes,
though. But yeah, and then that does lead
absolutely.
to more them being able to accept themselves as they grow up and be who they are. Like you're saying, you found your voice and being who you are in everything you do. You said all the jobs you're doing is about you being yourself.
Yes, and
Not
it's
because
so easy to do so many things because they
mm,
agree with each other. If they
yeah,
don't agree with each other, I mean, it doesn't work
yeah.
really.
No, no, it's brilliant. Absolutely. I love that. And I'm working my way towards that. It's getting there, starting with the book, I'm working my way towards it. It's been
You
in
are
the back of
doing,
my
you
mind
are
for years.
with the story that, how you transformed your story into inspiration is in itself as, quite an
Thank you.
example. I'm sure it will
Yeah,
help
that's
many
the
people.
book about him. Yeah, there's actually quite interesting. I mentioned there's bits in the book that I haven't even mentioned yet. Is about there's some bits in there about my third great grandfather's brother was a steamship captain, and I've managed to incorporate some little stories of him in the book along the way as well, and things he must have gone through. He was like he went missing at Christmas. Oh, today, 15th of December, isn't it? Of course. That was the 15th of December in the 1800s. He went missing at sea. Right? They went missing. His ship broke down, and somebody tried to rescue them, and they couldn't rescue them. So it's a good time to tell this tonight. It's I'm trying to remember what year it actually was. I can't think, but it would be the anniversary of when he went missing at sea, and they couldn't rescue him because the sea was too rough. So he said, "That's okay, go." And the next time somebody comes past when the weather's calmed down, then they'll rescue us, because they'd lost their steam power. It was steamship, and come Christmas time, nobody had found him. So he had a wife and 5 children at home. So you imagine Christmas probably not very nice for them that year. By New Year, they still hadn't found him, with his crew on board, so they hadn't found the ship. And in those days, going from England to America to New York was extremely busy across the ocean because we didn't have aeroplanes then. So it was very, very busy. And ships passing each other all the time, very often crashing into each other. So anyway, they said, no, they won't be found. But no, Christmas not found them. New Year, nobody had found them. They'd not been seen. So when you think they've not been seen for 2.5 weeks, the newspaper printed the death of Captain Benjamin Gledall and his crew. And then on the 12th of January, they sailed into Boston Harbour in Ireland. Everybody on board still alive. So that was amazing. So imagine being out in the Atlantic Ocean all that time. Oh my goodness, lost at sea. So yes, the little stories like that I've put. I don't know about that particular one, but I've put various little stories of him in the book. Even though it's about teenagers and emotional awareness, it's about how he must have had to, how must he felt at times when different things happened in his career, and he would have had just the same emotions as we do today, and just raising that awareness that, whether we are a child and we're dreaming, whether we're an adult and we're going through stress, whether somebody's in a big career and lost at sea, or they're sitting at home writing a book, we've still all got the same emotions. And so important to understand them all and share those stories. And what you're doing is absolutely phenomenal, getting people to share those stories. I'm just trying to write my own. You're helping other people write theirs. Well done.
No, thank you so much. I do feel that I have been through the phase of being angry or even trying to explore the problem statements for a couple of years when I was in that mode of trying to see. I mean, I was not very much of a sloganeering person who would know that this is the answer and this is how, people are supposed to behave. But even if I was doing discourses, it was more of telling, so this is the right way in terms of gender sensitivity. This is the right way of taking care of mental health. But then right now, where my consciousness stands today, I feel that people need to be heard and to be seen. It is not so much about telling them, love yourself and take yourself to a spa vacation or to, so those discourses have their place, but that one keynote or that one panel discussion, awareness is fine. But what do you do with that awareness? You come back home, and within your intimate circle as well, there is not enough emotional connection because we have not developed that language of speaking our vulnerability, of just saying things without defending ourselves, or just not wanting to be proved right, or doing a one up on somebody else. So we have not even got used to that language.
No.
What we need is emotional safety. I mean, the moment somebody says that, oh, you didn't do it that way, I would grow defensive, and in my head I will start counting, but that was the time when I did that, but that person. But what if I am allowed to say that, I am human, I'm broken, and I forgot, and it's okay, and I'm not ashamed. And even if I'm ashamed, it's human to be ashamed. And the unnecessary shame and guilt as well, and which again is gendered, but both the sexes have it. I mean, for girls, it's like, a stain on your skirt, nothing of your doing, but you are so shamed that in your head you are second guessing yourself, you are gaslighting yourself. And for boys also, I feel that, still there are enough number of agencies who are doing a lot of awareness for girls. But boys are not even allowed to cry. They are not even allowed to say that I'm thinking of my little child who is unwell. But nobody heard of a father taking a sick leave for the child. So it's so boxed and it's so trite. I feel that if I could do one service, it would be to be able to give them the language and also to give them the platform, and to hold that space of emotional safety and say that it's fine. So when I taught my last batch this year, so my next batch is in January. So last batch, when I taught them, all of my participants, and incidentally, I had participants from 4 continents. So somebody from Europe, somebody from the UK, somebody from South Africa, and somebody from India. So I had 4 continents. And each one of them wept through the process of realizing, oh my God, I didn't even think of it. And each one of their stories were involving either forgiving their own father or forgiving their own, younger sibling. But small things like you're supposed to love your younger brother. Who says so? I mean, if you're not allowed to admit how you feel, but if you are told that you are supposed to feel this way, which is something that even I perhaps was trying to do when I was doing awareness. But there's only that much that you can do in awareness. What you need to do is sensitivity. And I think I'm moving from that space of awareness into sensitivity and empathy.
Yeah, that is amazing. That is. And like you say, it's so important. And like you say, with men where they feel like they can't cry and they bottle it up, it's not, they might be holding in the tears, but the tears will switch for anger and aggression. And like you said,
it doesn't go away, right? It doesn't go away.
And it doesn't go
sits
away.
inside you and eats you inside.
Yeah. It's like you see that little logo up there, that side. That blue is the tears, the sadness and the aggression. And if you hold it in, that goes and goes and goes, it blows up. And eventually that pops through and comes out as anger on the other side. And, you don't go from holding in all those tears to suddenly going, oh, no, it's okay, I'm happy again. You have to work through the anger and the tears and you have to balance them out and find a happy middle
Yes.
before you get back there. Otherwise it just weighs you down and weighs you down. You end up in that depression. So absolutely right, and they need that outlet. A lot of people talk about doing it through sports or through talking, but talking's just as good. Sports is not for everybody, and I
But the
understand that's
problem
really
with
good.
talking is that there isn't anybody to listen, other
Mm,
than, of course, if you are going to hire hours with a therapist. And
yeah,
the problem with not being able to say it is also because people don't know how to say it, because nobody loves a pity party. Nobody would come and listen to your sob
no,
story. So,
yeah,
what I try to give is the language of emotions, and also to show how the same story can be done in a way that will help a person's authentic branding, rather than
mm,
becoming a space of agony aunt columns. So the
yeah,
same story, but once you put it on paper, and once you work through it, and once you work through the different structure and element and character, and once you head hop and shift perspective, you develop not just presentable story, but you also develop your own perspective. So the next time you fight with your spouse, you would perhaps see the emotional need in the other person, because you have worked through your own story, and now you can
mm,
appreciate somebody else's story, and your stories also gain a shape that will not just become a emotional diarrhea, but it will actually help you to be authentically present. So you can
yeah,
carry your story, and it will become a space of connection between you and your colleagues, between you and your family, between you and social media. So the
mm,
same story, if it can be told well, it can
yeah.
become your strength.
Yes, and I think that's really important. Really important how you've put that, because, like you said, it's not. It's a fine line between that story of strength and the pity party. And the pity party would have pushed people away, and it is about turning that round. And one of the things I say is like, um, I when you fall, everybody has moments in life where emotionally you crash. But the difference is whether you fall to pieces when you hit the floor and spend the rest of your life crying about it being in pieces, or whether you hit that floor and say, do you know what, I bounce. That's what I say, I bounce. And the harder I hit that floor, the higher I'm going to bounce. And it
Absolutely.
hurts at times when you get there. It's scary, it's frightening, it feels dark, it feels lonely. But if you don't make an effort and you just give up, you're just going to flatten out on the floor and just stay there. You have to make that effort to get up again, don't you? And I love that concept of you can go to family and talk, oh, I'm going through a really bad time, and they'll offer you sympathy. But there's so many times you can do that before they then say, oh, don't want to hear you anymore, and you've got to let go of that story, or do something to help yourself move forward, overcome it, share the story, have a voice, and actually say, do you know what? This is triumph out of trauma, and start to make, and it's all it is about at the end of the day is your own personal progress, isn't it? So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah. So no, brilliant. That's incredible work you are doing. Absolutely incredible. And I think you probably need some sleep as well. So I should say hi to Yvette. Yvette's finally joined me in the room at 7 o'clock. And I don't know if she's seen the notice tonight. We started at 6 because Sinjini is calling in all the way from India, and it's now must be
It's
midnight.
12:30 here in the
Oh, it's
night. Yeah,
a bit strange. You're
almost.
on a half an hour. Because
Yeah,
normally I thought the time zones jumped an hour, but you've got a half an hour out. That's
it's
confused me.
12:34 in the night. Yeah,
Oh,
in the
brilliant.
morning.
Well, I will let you get some sleep, but thank you so much for joining us tonight.
My
It's
pleasure.
been amazing having a conversation with you about stories and dreams.
Thank you. My pleasure entirely, and all the very best to your
You're
book and
right.
your voice and the work you are doing.
You're
And
right. Thank you.
yeah,
I know.
so to all your
Great.
friends, a big hello.
Thank you very much, and to all of yours. And honestly, I wish you great success with your book, or continued success with Elixir, and lots of future success with all the other books you're planning on writing, and all the lovely people you're helping to find a voice. That's amazing. And like I said, I can't wait till the day when suddenly I just see you go, and you light up like a big light, because you are just full of light and energy. It's lovely. Thank you. So, right, I think we're frozen up. I don't believe that. Just as we get to the very end, I think she's frozen up. But thank you ever so much. And honestly, thank you to anyone who's come in and watched tonight. If you've literally come in at the end, we are just finishing. I'm sorry we are an hour earlier, but it's literally because Sinjini is in India at midnight now. Sorry, that's my feet on the chair. I'm trying to sit really comfy tonight because I've been sitting in my chair way too long writing this book, and I've got back pain again. So I need to get up and get moving again the next week. Now I've got there. But the book is on the way still, with lots and lots of work going on. I think my agent's been trying to call me while we're on the live. I know it was my son. I'm going to get back to him in a bit. But thank you very much indeed. And again, it's been an amazing conversation live tonight about mental health awareness, with Sinjini talking about her book Elixir, and Story of a Dream of a Story. Might be the other way around, but it will be on, the link is in the chats. And she does some amazing work with speaking and helping other people find their voice. It's been a really, really powerful, pleasant evening. So please do watch the replay, and we'll see you all next week. Let's have a look in the yellow book and see who's on next week. I'm actually saying that, I don't think I've put it in the book yet. It's on, no, I remember who it was, Lois Wagner, and talking about something about activism against domestic violence. That'll be next week's topics, and be a very powerful subject next week. But we will be back to the normal time of 7 p.m. So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us. Night night.